Howdy, Immortalium here. Today I'm reviewing The Slayers Try, the third season of The Slayers. Now, before I get into this, I best explain something. The Slayers is originally a light novel series, and the first two seasons of The Slayers adapted novels from that series. This season, however, is an original story, a story not found in the, regular novels. Immediately that kind of brings up the question, how is it in comparison to the other series? Well, I would argue that it's better than the first season, which was quite mixed, but it fails to reach the heights of the second season. It's okay. It's fun, but it's not brilliant. Now let me go into more details on it. Basically, the premise of The Slayers Try is that after the events at the end of Slayers Next, this barrier, which I don't recall them ever mentioning before in the other two seasons. Anyway, this barrier that was keeping anyone from leaving the peninsula where everyone lived has finally come down. So for the first time in 1,000 years, I think they said, the people from the continent are able to actually go out into the outside world, and the king has established a fleet. And he's about to send everyone off, and Lena's there, and she encounters Zelgadis and Gowry, and Emilia's there, because she's the daughter of the king. And they come across this woman called Philia. And Philia has a job for them, but she must test them. And they end up destroying most of the fleet. So Lena and her cohorts then have to go off into the outside world in order to complete their mission for this mysterious woman. Now, how is the plot of it in comparison to the other series? Well, I thought it had a lot of potential from at least the premise. Basically, the idea that they're going out into this completely unknown space, so it's completely new. There's no kind of associations with any of these characters. And one thing that I found fascinating as well, which is mentioned in, still an early episode in the season, is the fact that in this outside world, magic has only been developed ever so slightly. I mean, the best sorcerers in this outside world, the best they can do is, create light. That's it. They can't do any fire blasts or anything, which I found, that to be a great sounding premise. I kind of wish that The Slayers Try was just simply them going from town to town, just dealing with all these, dumbstruck fools who are completely, amazed at all this power that they have. I kind of wish that. I'm not sure how it would have held for like a whole 26 episodes, but it would have been quite different, at least in comparison to the other series. Instead, what we end up with is another plot to save the world. It's the same old. And unlike the previous season, in which it introduced two very strong, likable characters. Well, I guess the strong with Martina might have been a bit... she worked well off of Lena, at least. In this season, there isn't really any standout new characters. I mean, Philia is the newest character. Well, as a new character, she has the most screen time of all the new characters. And she's not that great as a character. She's not bad, but... basically she reacts to people being offensive to her by whacking them with her club. Occasionally she goes on a rampage because of the fact that she has some powers, which I won't spoil. She's okay, as I said. It's nothing special added. And it comes to think of it, one of the things I found a bit disappointing in this season was the fact that none of the main cast got much of a focus. What I mean by that is in the previous two seasons, there were like a lot of moments which focused on the way that Zelgadis and Emilia and Gowry and Lena all interacted with each other. In this season, a lot of the interaction seems to come from the new characters. These characters who aren't as charming or as well developed, in my opinion, as these other characters. So I found that disappointing. And a small niggle as well, just to mention. For anyone who's seen Zelos from Season 2, he's back here. But this is such a small detail, but it annoyed the crap out of me. Zelos is one of those closed eyes characters, where he walks around with his eyes closed the entire time, most of the time, and the only times he ever opens them, at least in season 2, was when stuff was getting real. I mean, when, you know, hell was happening and everything. And then, of course, you know, that just had a plain bit of awesomeness. Oh my god, Zealous is opening his eyes. He spends, I'd say, more time in this season with his eyes open than with his eyes closed, which is surprising. It's a minor detail. I'm not sure if anyone else has ever pointed out with this season, but that just drove me up the wall. So, I don't know. The other thing I should point out is that this was actually animated by a different studio than the previous seasons. The previous seasons, I think, were animated by a company called EG Films. I can't recall what else they've done, or if they're still in business or anything. This season was the first season of Slayers to be animated by J.C.Staff. Now, if I'm just trying to recall, J.C.Staff, they're famous for doing Toradora, and I think they're doing a series now called Golden Time. So, they're well known and they're well liked. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain about them as animators. So, how is their job with this? Well, first of all, if it wasn't for the credits, I would not have been able to tell it was a different animation studio, which is a plus. You know, the fact that the character designs and everything remain consistent. Now, for the actual quality animation, I would argue that it's a consistent, good quality. Basically, it's on the same level in most regards as season 2 of the Slayers. You know, as the characters walk around and talk and fight and everything. But there were some moments in season 2 that were kind of like wow moments. Like, there was some brilliant animation, particularly near the end, as you might expect. But there was some, like, even during the rest of the season, there was still some, like, animation bits that I was just kind of, oh my god, that looks fantastic. Which I never got in this season. So, it's a good animation-wise, but it's not. It doesn't reach the highs that season 2 did. Now, it doesn't reach the lows that season 1 did. Season 1 was very iffy animation, but yeah, kind of disappointing. The voice cast, as usual, is really strong for this series, particularly considering that this dub was done back in 2000, when, you know, dubs generally weren't that great. Now, I say generally, you know, not every dub was bad back then. I think, Cowboy Bebop was probably done around then, and that's a fantastic dub, from what I've heard. Slayers Try, it's still a great dub. Still beat the pants off of most stuff around it at the time. The new characters, they perform, like the new voice actors and actresses for the new characters, they perform the jobs pretty well. Something that I found amusing was, in the Anime Society recently, we watched the first Pokemon movie, and I started this like a few days afterwards. I realized that one of the new characters called Gillis in this, he was voiced by the same voice actress, I think it was. I think it's an actress who voiced Meowth from the original Pokemon. Now, this is the original Meowth, not the new person from Meowth, but the original Meowth. So, I thought that was pretty interesting. So, overall, it's a very good dub, as usual. And, like, no faults to the new actors and actresses. It's just, their characters weren't that great. So, how does Slayers Try compare to everything else in the Slayers franchise? It's a pretty good entry. It's nothing special, in my opinion. But then again, it's hard, I'd say, to top season 2. Like, season 2, a lot of the pieces came together really well, whereas the first season was a mishmash. And this, while it's more coherent and more consistent, failed to reach the highs of season 2. So, I just found that quite problematic. If you enjoyed season 2, I'd highly recommend that you go get Slayers Try. It's still, you know, a very good continuation of Slayers, and considering it's all basically filler, you know, that makes it even better. But it's not as good as season 2. That's what I'll say. And if season 2 didn't grab your attention, this season isn't gonna, you know, grab your attention. It's actually weaker than season 2. So yeah, that's all I've got to say on Slayers Try. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.